are downtown Madison at the state capitol.
The Wisconsin State Capitol is a beautiful and majestic building that is rich with culture and history. Not only does the State Capitol building house the branches of the state government, including the legislature, assembly, state Supreme Court, and the governor's office, it's also well known for its beautiful architecture, sculptures, and paintings, which have made it a popular destination for tourists who are visiting the city. There are fascinating and informative tours that you and the family can take to learn more about the history of the building and the state of Wisconsin. After our tour, we'll head over to State Street to see what makes it such a popular spot for visitors. Construction of the present Capitol is the third on this site in Madison. The first Capitol was a manufactured wood frame council house. It had neither heat nor water, and it was located in Belmont, Wisconsin. During 1837, the second Capitol was made of Wisconsin stone and oak. The present-day Capitol building took 11 years to build. Standing just 3 feet shorter than the United States Capitol building in Washington, D.C. The building is a mosaic of the world, with over 43 types of stone from 6 countries and 8 states, including Greece, Algeria, Italy, Norway, and France. The Capitol building was designated a National Historic Landmark during 2001. The badger at the top is part of a statue named Wisconsin, sculpted by Daniel Chester French, whose work includes Abe Lincoln in the Lincoln Memorial in D.C. The statue's left hand holds a globe with an eagle on it, and her right arm stretches up and out to symbolize the state motto, Forward. Don't mistake her for the other statue by the Capitol, however, Lady Forward. Lady Forward was crafted by a Wisconsin native for the 1883 Wisconsin Columbian Exposition in Chicago and was moved to Madison in 1895. Although Lady Forward was later replaced by a replica that could better handle the wear and tear of the weather, you can still see Miss Forward just down the street at the Wisconsin Historical Society. Let's head in and meet our tour guide, Dinah. She's going to show us the ins and outs of the Capitol.
He is made of bronze that came from cannons captured during the Spanish-American War in Cuba, and in his present form, he used to sit on the hull of the first USS Wisconsin battleship, and then he spent a number of years in Annapolis at the Naval Academy, which is where they started the tradition of rubbing his nose for good luck. Everyone who enters the conference room first rubs his nose for good luck.
Well, we have to do that then.
Absolutely.
We start our tour at the Governor's Conference Room on the first floor East Wing. The Governor's Boardroom looks like it could be part of a museum, but it's actually used as a fully functioning office building.
The Governor himself will use this for meetings, press conferences, bill signings.
The architecture and furnishings in the Capitol are very reflective of Wisconsin's diverse heritage.
So is this a painting of the state capitol?
In fact, it's a painting of the Capitol that stood here before this one. A lot of people think it's a depiction of the Capitol in Washington, D.C., because that building that was here was modeled directly after the U.S. Capitol. And unfortunately, we lost that one to a huge fire in 1904.
This room also has some of the most striking paintings in the Capitol. There are approximately 26 paintings in the room, all painted in the style of the Italian Renaissance.
And I noticed the floor, it's very intricate. This is all hand done?
It is. There are 4 different types of wood, and this is the only wooden floor in a public space in the building. It's mahogany and white mahogany and oak.
The mantel in the boardroom is a handcrafted Italian marble, and the walls are made of cherry wood. In 1968, the cherry wood was painted in a cream-colored paint matching the color of the marble. However, in recent years, the room was restored to its original design.
And this over here is Henry Dodge, is that right?
Yes, the bust, and he is placed in front of a painting of another building, which is a rather quite plain one, but that still stands. It's in Belmont, and that was our very first territorial capital, and of course Henry Dodge was our first territorial governor. This piece of art, the bust, was saved from the burning building in 1904.
The most identifiable part of the Capitol building is, of course, the dome. Reaching up over 200 feet, the dome is unique because it is the only granite dome in the country.
So I understand this is the largest dome in North America, is that right?
Yes, but this is a two-dome system, and so it is the exterior dome that is the largest. And that one shoots up about 50 feet higher than what we see in here. But it's not its height that makes it the largest, it is its volume. And in fact, it is the fourth largest on Earth.
The ceiling of the rotunda is wonderfully decorated with Edwin Blashfield's mural, Resources of Wisconsin.
The women are holding out the various things that come from our state, things like wheat and copper and lead and fish and fruit, everything except the thing for which we are famous.
Cheese?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no cheese, no cow, no dairy, which seems quite surprising, but it makes sense because when this building was being constructed between 1906 and 1917, we were still a part of America's breadbasket. We were growing wheat for our major industry. And it wasn't until after the building was already completed that we became the dairyland that we are. And then it was too late to put in any major indication, so sadly there is none.
No cheese.
Working our way down to the mosaics that are in the pendentive area of the dome, 4 of them each made up of 100,000 pieces of hand-cut glass tile, where the artist depicts the 3 branches of government because they are all housed here.
Each of the 4 wings of the building is placed with a figure that correlates with the activities that take place there.
And this is an area where we see the greatest variety of stone all in one area. In all, there's 43 different types of stone, and they come from 8 states within the U.S. and then 6 foreign countries. The green marble that we see surrounding us here is from Greece. There's a red stripe of marble above those columns that's from Algeria, North Africa. Much of the floor is Italian marble. In the balustrade here we have French marble. And on the ground floor there are black sparkly pillars, and that's a stone called syenite, which is from Norway. Most of the interior is a limestone from Minnesota, but we have our own state stone a little bit surrounding us as well, which is red granite, and that's what the pillars are here, and they flank the major rooms upstairs. So this is the first floor level of the rotunda where many community events take place. And the word rotunda, by the way, means the round room in Latin, so that makes sense for us.
And we're in front of Robert La Follette's statue here. And why is he so important to Wisconsin history?
Robert La Follette was many things. He's known as Fighting Bob. And he was a governor of the state in the early 1900s. He was a U.S. senator. He also ran for president. It's because of his philosophy that this building is so beautiful and opulent, because he wanted each resident of the state to take pride in and ownership in their house.
During the holidays, be sure to catch the holiday tree. The large tree is placed in the rotunda and is beautifully decorated with ornaments created by Wisconsin's youths. The various ornaments all have a Wisconsin theme symbolizing what it means to call the Badger State home. Our next stop, the Senate. The Senate chamber is ornamented with French and Italian marble.
We have solid French marble columns, whereas most of the building is a facade. It's a veneer of stone that doesn't really thrust greater than what you can see, and it all covers a steel frame construction.
The ceiling features a colorful skylight and a Kenyon Cox mural that portrays the opening of the Panama Canal.
It tells one story and has one title, which is The Marriage of the Atlantic and the Pacific. And it's a story about the opening of the Panama Canal, which one might ask, why is that here in Madison?
Right,
it's really far from here, right?
Why is it here?
It's because this is what was going on in the world when this room opened in 1914, and the artist wanted to date both events and make sure that no one ever forgot that time of history when all of this came together. And it's a marriage ceremony there in the center because of what the canal does in terms of uniting those two oceans. And this artist, who happens to be the same man who created the mosaics out in the rotunda, Kenyon Cox, he liked to use mythological figures to represent his ideas. And so he shows us Neptune from the Atlantic. He's marrying a woman who represents Oceania, the Pacific. The United States is right there in the foreground, but depicted as little babies, because that's the artist's way of saying we're a very young nation compared to the rest of the world. On the right panel is the goddess of peace, and she is inviting some of the Atlantic nations to the celebration. There's France, Germany, and Great Britain. And on the left panel, the god of commerce, also known as Hermes or Mercury, is inviting the Pacific nations of Japan, China, the Middle East, and the Polynesian Islands.
This interesting floor here.
Yes, these glass blocks are part of the whole natural daylight system.
How thick is the glass?
Just a couple of inches, maybe not even. And so they don't light up, but they do allow light to fall through the floor to the corridor below. So these are in the ceiling of the first floor below us. And even though some are cracked, and they have been for a number of years,
It's still safe?
No one has fallen through yet.
Would they ever get replaced? Have they ever been replaced?
No, these are original.
We visit the State Supreme Courtroom next.
So tell me about this badger up here.
Oh yeah, one
Is
of
that-
4. They all are over the pediments of each of the major rooms up here.
Wait, it looks wooden. What is it made out
It's
of?
plaster.
Oh, it
but,
is?
In fact, a lot of people think it looks like a frog rather than a badger because of the design, sort of.
It does, actually, now that you mention that.
Especially from a distance.
Froggish badger. So there's 4, one on each wing?
Exactly.
Okay. So we are entering
The Supreme
Court.
Our next room is the State Supreme Courtroom. German and Italian styles influence this beautifully decorated room, and marble is extensively highlighted.
It looks different than any kind of TV court program out there because it's a different kind of court. No one's on trial and no one determines innocence or guilt. This is an appellate court.
I noticed there's 4 murals in this room.
Yes, all done by one artist whose name is Albert Herder. And these each depict either a law or an event that shaped our own Wisconsin laws. And we start chronologically with the one that is above the door. That's Roman law, the beginning of the judge and jury trial system, or civil law. Caesar Augustus is shown there in his litter. And on this side of the room is the signing of the Magna Carta, so English law, 1215. King John at the table. All the players are there, except in the foreground, it might seem a little strange that there's a big dog and a boy in green tights.
Yeah, who is that?
Yeah, the artist had a little bit of fun at this, and he put in a portrait of his family dog.
Oh.
And the boy with the dog is the artist's son. In the front of the room is the signing of the Constitution, so American law, 1787, and the artist had a little bit of fun with this one as well. He put in a very famous historical figure who never signed the Constitution, who in fact was in France at the time, and it is Thomas Jefferson, who's standing just to the right side of the desk. The artist did this deliberately, though, because he felt that Jefferson was instrumental in creating this document, and so he deserves to be there along with the actual signers. Our only stone from Germany is what these very colorful panels are surrounding us. That's called a Formosa marble. And it's displayed in a style you can find all over this building. It's called book match. The top reflects the bottom and the sides each other. And to arrive at that, you have to imagine taking out a quarter of one of those panels and then slicing it thinly. And then you'd open it up like a book. So now you have your 2 pages. Then you'd slice those thinly and open that up, and you end up with the 4 quarters. That gives this very symmetrical effect.
I noticed there's special lighting.
It's a candelabra style. They look as though they might have supported candles at one time, but those were always electric.
Up next is the North Hearing Room.
So what room are we in right now?
This is called the North Hearing Room, and it's one of our 4 major rooms up here on the 2nd floor level that are found at the ends of each of the 4 wings. The building is shaped like a giant cross. It's called a cruciform.
The 4 murals were painted in 1914 and 1915 by Charles Yardley Turner.
And each one of these rooms has a skylight.
It almost looks like there's lights behind it.
They're lit from below.
Below.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the hearing room was originally used by the Railroad Commission, the murals reflect the history of transportation.
And the artist brings us through this evolution of sorts, and where he put in everything he could think of, including an airplane right there in the center of the sky. Because
right, I see it.
It wasn't exactly a way to get around yet, but of course he made the right choice.
Ahead of his time. And what kind of marble do we have here?
These are different types of Italian marble, which lends to the yellowness of this room. And they're full of these fossils called ammonites. They're sort of shrimp-like sea creatures, and they're almost in every single block that you look at. This room is also used in parts of filming the movie Public Enemies with Johnny Depp. But they use this for their FBI commission meeting room. But in the movie, there are a couple of actors sitting up in those chairs, and you can clearly see that ammonite behind their heads.
Okay, wow.
Nothing is written, but the steer skull in the very front symbolizes pioneerism.
Very interesting.
Coming up next, the Assembly Chamber. The Assembly Chamber showcases marble from New York and Italy, Wisconsin oak furniture, and a 30-foot-high skylight.
This is the Assembly Chambers. It is the largest major room in the building with the largest skylight above us. And this is where our 99 representatives do their part in making law. When they vote on the bills that the senators do, in here they use the buttons that are at the right side of each of these desks. There's green for yes and red for no. And once they cast their vote, we see the results on these very large boards here in the front of the room, where everyone's name is written out electronically with a red or green light next to their names, depending on how they voted.
A mural by Edwin Blashfield signifies Wisconsin's past, present, and future.
And of course it includes the figure of Wisconsin, who's surrounded by 3 women, and they each represent the 3 bodies of water that surround our state, the 2 lakes, Superior and Michigan, and the Mississippi River. But the real fun in this mural has to do with the badger that's standing on the rock next to the American flag towards the right side of the mural. The badger was not what the artist had in mind for this originally, because when he thought he was done with it, there was a Civil War soldier standing there instead. But before he could ship the work out of his studio to Madison, the people in charge saw it, they loved it, but they felt strongly that it needed our state animal in it. And so the artist agreed to add the badger. So what he ended up doing is he painted over that Civil War soldier. He got rid of him, and it gave him the space he needed to put in the badger. And then in 1989, the whole business was cleaned with something like 20,000 Q-tips, inch by inch by inch. And after it was cleaned, something peculiar started to happen. The soldier who was once wiped out started to creep back in. If you start looking at the badger and go straight up to the cross that the missionary is holding, directly to the right of that cross, there's a shadow of maybe an upside-down bowl or a crescent, but that's the soldier's hat. He is known as the ghost of the assembly.
And is that a stuffed eagle?
It is.
It's real?
Old Abe.
Okay. Let's
story.
talk about that.
Okay.
Really?
Oh, yeah. That is a real eagle.
And he has a name.
He represents another eagle whose name is Old Abe.
Okay.
And Old Abe was a mascot, a hero of the 8th Regiment out of Eau Claire. And during the Civil War, that troop of soldiers brought the bird into battle with them, and he caused so much trouble for the other side that the South put out a huge reward for his capture. But Old Abe the bird survived nearly 40 battles, including the Battle of Vicksburg. And after the war, Old Abe was brought to Madison, presented to the Capitol, and he ended up living in it for about 18 years in this beautiful cage in the basement.
Oh.
And then one day, a little bit of paint caught on fire, and it wasn't a big fire, but it did create the poisonous smoke and fumes that proved to be too much for the poor bird, and he met his end. And so they had him mounted or stuffed like this guy and placed in a room similar to this, but all of this happened in the building that stood here before this one, which we lost to the huge fire in 1904. So with the building, we lost the real body of Old Abe. So physically, he doesn't exist
This
anymore.
is a replica?
This is a replica.
Up next, we visit the museum.
There's a replica of the original drawing in this case. That original artwork is actually on the 3rd floor of the South Wing, but you have to come to the Capitol to see it.
So it is there. Where is it?
It is, as one enters the Senate Gallery, which is on the 3rd floor level, there's a hallway between 2 doors that lead into the gallery, and that piece of art is hanging in the hallway.
Were you going to show her the balcony?
Which balcony?
The trumpeter's balcony?
Yes!
All right!
Cool, we're going to get some cool behind the scenes.
If you behave.
No, it's inside.
Only if you behave.
Okay.
We got a sneak peek of the trumpeter's balcony. However, due to the dangerous height of the balcony, this stop is not part of the tour, but we'll show you as much as we can.
Oh, I wondered what this was from downstairs.
This is, what I tell people is...
We're done.
We're saving the best for last and heading up to the observation deck. It's supposed to be a beautiful view.
So here we are, we've saved the best for last. We are at the observation deck.
Yes.
Yes.
This is about 100 feet from the ground, and it is around the base of the dome, so we get a 360-degree view of Madison and her lakes, and people always love coming up here.
You can't visit Madison without going to State Street, a very popular destination. Let's continue our journey and spend the rest of the afternoon getting our walk, shop, and eat on at Madison State Street. With the Capitol building on the horizon, this street is filled with activities for all ages. You can enjoy locally made beer and cheese curds, great museums, and a variety of restaurants and shops. In many ways, State Street is the core of the city. It's a lively, eclectic, fun, and funky place for people watching. Diversity is everywhere. Many of the eateries, most of which are locally owned, stay open late and offer affordable and delicious food. There are also dozens of special events held year-round in this downtown area. Top athletes flood the city in the summer for Ironman, and concerts on the square invite people to bring out their picnic blankets for a night of music under the stars. The farmers market rings around the Capitol building for much of the year. Said to be the biggest in America, this farmers market's affordable price and constantly rotating vendors draws hundreds of people from miles away. There are many other cultural landmarks near State Street. Just across from the Capitol is the Wisconsin Veterans Museum, which is great for all ages. The museum honors the state's veterans, displaying dioramas that date back to the Civil War. And the best part is, it's free! We've had an interesting historical look into what makes the Wisconsin Capitol unique. If you're considering a visit, the Capitol is open to the public year-round. You may want to plan your visit to coincide with other happenings on the Capitol Square, such as the Farmers Market, the Winter Festival, the Art Fair on the Square, and many other events. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, I'm Veronica Harper. Keep on exploring.